And obviously that's not even necessary. So we'll start from here. Just before we begin the session, all the slides or everything will be recorded and will be uploaded on YouTube. So even if you miss something here and there, you can be rest assured that you'll be able to access the content on YouTube. You can, as I mentioned before, you can post your questions in the chat window. If you have any questions or if you have any doubts, just post them in the chat, and we'll be taking your questions as we move forward in the session. I actually have created a LinkedIn group specifically for this so that I can share assignments and all the details on LinkedIn. And I will just drop the link of actually it's added in the slide deck, so you can actually access it from there. If you have any issues actually accessing the LinkedIn group, you can drop me a mail here. And I've noticed, like, for day one, close to 200 people have RSVP'd. For the rest of the days, very few people have RSVP'd. So register for all the sessions of the bootcamp, because only active participants can win swags and vouchers. So if you're not attending all the sessions, you might miss out on some really amazing things which might come your way. So RSVP for all the sessions, try to attend all of them, because people who will be attending all of them and will be interacting, doing their assignments and everything, will get rewarded for all the efforts they'll put in. So yes, do that. In the meantime, okay, so today we will be discussing who all the speakers will be presenting during the bootcamp, our bootcamp schedule, and then everything about the SFMC email specialist exam. We'll also be sharing recommended training and references. And for each and every bootcamp, we'll be sharing some assignments as well. And lastly, we'll have time for some Q&A. So let's get started with all of our bootcamp speakers. You can see Shibu on your screen already. So we have a total of 8 speakers for our bootcamp. Shibu, he is a Golden Hoodie winner and a Salesforce MVP. Then we have Kuldeep Sharma. He is, again, a very popular face in the marketing ecosystem. Vicky, she's a Salesforce MVP, and again, a popular face. So all the people on your screen here, you already probably know them, and they're really popular people and popular faces of ecosystem. A few of them are MVPs and Golden Hoodie winners. Elliot is an MVP. Pankaj, Kunal, Jyotsna is a Golden Hoodie winner, and then myself. Except for me, like, most of the people are popular, so please forgive me, not all. Okay, so for the next 6 weeks, we will have 2 sessions every weekend, except for one of the Journey Builder sessions. For automation, a studio session, it'll be on a Friday evening instead of Saturday morning. And the day 6 will happen on a Saturday morning, though, at the same time. So there are a bit of changes since this is my first time organizing a bootcamp. Please forgive me for some of the mishaps here and there. So all the details are mentioned on the individual event page. So if you have any doubts or questions, you can drop me an email, or you can reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. But in general, all the details are available. We will be covering exam overview, email marketing best practices. Then we'll, since content creation and delivery is a big topic, we have divided it into 2 different days. So day 3 and day 4 will be for content creation and delivery. Then we'll discuss Automation Studio, journey builder, subscriber and data management. Again, it's a big topic, so it's been divided into two different parts. Then insights and analytics. And day 10 will be Einstein GPT, and all the amazing content which has been recently released, not just the ones, because Einstein GPT is something which is becoming very popular now. So you'll learn all about the trust layers, the marketing cloud intelligence, personalizations, and everything in here. And on day 11 and 12, we'll have two different practice tests. So day 11 practice test is already available. So day 11 practice test is a different practice test, and day 12 practice test is the web assessor practice test. So we'll cover how you can, because for a lot of people, this is going to be their first certification. That's what I have learned through the messages I've received. So day 12, we'll take you through about how you can book your exams on web assessor, and we'll also book our practice test on web assessor. So rest assured, we'll take you through each and everything you need to actually get the certification. So if you have any questions in between, feel free to drop them in the chat section. And let's welcome Shibu for today's session. Over to you, Shibu.
Great. Thank you very much, Piyusha, for having me on. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all. I've been seeing the welcome messages in chat. Thank you all for being here on the Saturday morning. Quite a few probably already know me, but those of you who probably not, quick introduction. I am based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I'm actually working for a partner company called UST. Used to be called UST Global earlier. So I head the Salesforce practice for UST, and I've been in IT for about 24 years, almost 16, 17 years in Salesforce, I would say. More on the delivery side of things, and then I started my community activities a few years back, and then yeah, the rest of it is already on the slide, so I think we should already mention that, so I'll stay away from that. Feel free to reach out to me on social. I know many people already do their network with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, sometimes, yeah, and then my contents usually on SFMC Trailblazers and Tidbits for You. That's on the social part of mine. So we can go to the next slide. Okay. All right. So let me. I'm hoping it's okay if I turn the video off, like because sometimes the bandwidth goes for a toss, so it's easier for me to speak. Okay, guys. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in chat. We will take a look at it towards the end of the session, definitely, and maybe in between, like Piyusha can provide some recommendations. But if not, we'll definitely take that up. Before we dive into email specialist, I wanted to take a few minutes here to talk to you about the various certifications that's available on the marketing cloud side of things. And see, marketing cloud right now, when you say marketing cloud, it's actually a bigger ecosystem. It used to be earlier just the exact target platform, but now there's multiple products that come under marketing cloud. So is the marketing cloud engagement. If anybody says it's marketing cloud engagements, that's the former exact target product. Okay, so that's the one that you use for B2C engagements and all that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Like email studio is part of that. And then there is marketing cloud account engagement, which is used to be the former Pardot. So don't get confused. There are two different platforms. Pardot actually resides on the Salesforce platform. The other one is also totally separate tool. So marketing cloud engagement and marketing cloud account engagement, two different products. Okay. And then if you're looking at the certifications for marketing cloud engagement, then these are the ones that you'll be needing to take a look at. For Pardot, I think there's two other ones for specialist and for consultant as well. Now, earlier email specialist used to be the foundation one. It used to be one of the earliest certifications that we used to have for marketing cloud, and we used to have just the consultant, just two of that. And I took it way back. I think more than 4 years back. I did fail. This was one of the first exams that I failed. So don't take it lightly. Even now, I would say, if you really do not know the foundations of the exam, it's not easy to clear. I took it very lightly when I sat for it. I was taking two exams on the same day. I took admin, I passed, and email specialist, I failed. So made me very curious to go back and really go into the depth of it. If you get hands-on to the platform, great. But Even if you, I mean, back in those days, it was very difficult to get hands-on on the org, and even there was not very good videos or content online. But nowadays, like, you find a lot of great content, and now we, as part of this bootcamp, you'll get some great speakers also, like, helping you to go through some of this content which is not always available if you don't have an org. So it's a great that you're being part of this particular boot camp, and then you can refer to, like, some of the study materials, and, like, and ask questions as you clarify, and go through the topics, right? If you're new to the ecosystem for Marketing Cloud, I would highly recommend you take the associate exam first. It is I actually wrote that, like, a few days after it came out. I just was very curious to see how it is different from the email specialist. It is actually pretty well thought out. It gives you a little base of, like, getting into marketing, and it is not very easy also. Like, you need to have a little understanding of, like, how Marketing Cloud works. A little bit of the simpler ones that you used to have in email specialist is now in the actual associate exam. So, like, a little bit about compliance and few things is actually there, like, so it is not a very, don't take it very lightly. The associate is actually a really good exam, so that will give you a really good benchmark of to see, are you ready to take up email specialist. So if you haven't done any of these, I would say, like, maybe you might want to attempt the associate to see where you are, and then start looking at parallel. If you want to get into email specialist, that'd be great. Okay. Sometimes people often ask me, like, should I take the admin one or the email specialist? See, this varies from people to people. My personal recommendation, having looked at the platform and then looking at the experience that I've had, I felt like email specialist is the first one that you can probably look at among the big four that you see there. Uh, Primarily because it actually has a lesser focus area. It most looks like the fundamentals and the basics of the platform, and you focus on one channel, which is email. Whereas admin is like more broader. It gives you a little more depth of, like, the various platform, the channels, everything that you see, like, on a high level. You need to know, like, in and outs of, like, how do you configure stuff inside Marketing Cloud. So you need to little learn a little more, and you probably need to have a little hands-on the platform as well, right? So which is why Marketing Cloud email specialist is slightly, I would say, like, maybe a stepping stone, like, maybe a foundation that you can take, like, once you get into the Marketing Cloud core exams. You can then go to Marketing Cloud admin, and then depending upon which one you want to go, if you want to go developer path or if you want to go consultant path, you can actually do. I believe the prerequisite right now for the developer is still email specialist, and the consultant is admin. So you cannot take the developer or the consultant directly. You need to have either the email or the admin ones before you can take those. So that is still there. To take email specialist, I don't believe you need a prerequisite, like, so even if you don't have associate, you can still attempt it. But always a good choice to, like, to see where you are once you start preparing, to see, like, you can take the associate and then go to email specialist. Okay. If you are a partner, or working as part of a partner company, once you go into, like, some of these certifications, like, in future, you should probably look at, like, getting little more focused on some areas like advanced cross channels. The advanced cross channels you can only write if you have all these four, the ones that you see in the email specialist, developer, consultant, and admin. So that will give you a little more of, like, how do I now apply Marketing Cloud for cross cloud applications, like, so it's a little more for partner specific implementations. Personalization is used to be the interaction studio, and the intelligence is the old data rama. Okay, so those are, like, very specific topics on some products associated with Marketing Cloud engagement, right? So that's just a nutshell of, like, what the certifications are. In case, like, you have any questions of, like, okay, what do we need to take, like, where do I stand, where do I focus first, etc. Hopefully that helps answer some of those. Okay, can go to the next slide, Pisha. Yeah, now about the exam, I know this is there, like, you can take a look at it from the exam guide. Pretty self-explanatory, like, like most of the exams. You'll have 60 questions, and you need to answer that in a specific time. And then we look at the specific distribution in the next slide. So the next one, Pisha. Yeah, so this is something that sometimes people do not take like, note of this one too much. Uh, when I started studying, like, as well, and then later on, as I used to, like, train people, and tell people in my team as well, like, when to learn. I kind of, like, focused on these distribution areas. If you look at the modules in the way that they're arranged, or you're looking at it, like, so you might think, okay, we can start with email, practices, and, you can look at content one by one, like that. Where I usually start or tell people to start learning is subscriber and data management. Okay, it is one of, it used to be one of the largest modules, but now it is having equal weightage with marketing automation. But I feel that is still the first foundational module that you should start learning. It really gives you a lot of depth, which I'll cover in the next few slides. But that is the one of the most important ones, which people take it very lightly. Like, people feel like, yeah, data, we know data how it is. Like, it's not, it's simple, we can figure that out. And that is where, like, people, I've seen people make like mistakes in their questions as well. Okay, so that one and marketing automation, two important ones. Then you can look at, see if you can see content creation comes next, insight analytics, and email best practices. Okay, so all have, like, importance, like, but if you look at it, like, from this weightage perspective, I would always say start with subscriber data management, then marketing automation, followed by content creation, insights, and email best practices. That doesn't mean that you should ignore the other smaller modules, but if you focus more on the bigger modules, you have a better chance of passing the exam. Even if you make a few mistakes here and there, and like, some of the others, that's okay. Like, but if you really be strong on some of these foundations, it will really help you in the future when you actually get into work as well. Okay. Okay, so I think next we can dive into the actual content. So I have the next few slides are actually, like, looking at each of these modules. Like, the exam guide has given you what is on the left side, the blue bullet points that you see. But looking at, frankly, looking at those points, if you go and try to study, you will have no idea, like, what, okay, like, it doesn't tell you exactly what topics to cover and things like that, which is what the speakers in the next few weeks will actually help cover, like, for each topic. Today I'll probably just give you a very high level, like, of some of these things. So maybe you can come back and refer to this video after you've gone through the entire bootcamp and see, like, have I covered all the topics, have I studied, or if you want to do a revision, like, is there something that I've left. And again, the list is quite comprehensive, that we cannot cover everything today, but at least some important ones that, that you should know. Like, I can probably give you some idea, like, that you should probably look at, and you shouldn't miss out, and uh, I apologize, like, because I haven't taken the exam for a long time. It's like 4 years back, but I feel some of the content is still relevant. There are a few topics that have been updated, so there are probably a few those also. I think the speakers will cover that when they speak on the specific topics. So hopefully you get to see some of those as well. Okay. Now, like I said, this is the foundational module that you should actually take first. And primarily, like, whenever somebody talks to you about data, like, in marketing cloud, people always say, yeah, data extensions, right? And that's what people immediately comes to your mind, because that is what you have commonly heard. But there is a lot more things that you need to know beyond that, like, so the foundational, there is actually two data models that you should know. There is a subscriber model and a contact model. And what is the difference between the two? When do you call somebody a subscriber? Who is a contact? You should really know. Okay. And the various data structures are both lists and data extensions. So lists, lists and data extensions, both you should know. When do you use one versus the other? Okay. So lists is specifically, like, it has a specific structure, it has a specific type of data that you can store, versus data extensions, like, it is more flexible. And then, like, most of the time, like, I've seen, like, if I ask questions on, like, about where do you plan to store data, people get confused because they're not very sure how to use these two data structures. So there are, when you go through the bootcamp, you should ask yourself, like, okay, in such a scenario, where, what structure would I use, like, when should I use a list, when should I use a data extension, and what is the importance of this all subscribers list. Okay. So what main thing that you should know is, like, email channel is where the subscriber context is very relevant. Okay. So everywhere else, whenever you talk about marketing cloud, you talk about contacts. Okay, because primarily you are actually marketing to a single or a specific person, right? One or more people, because it's a B2C, is meant for a B2C kind of engagement. So that particular person, they call it as a contact in marketing cloud. But in terms of that contact, when it comes inside email channel or email marketing, we call them as a subscriber. So you need to understand, like, okay, what is a subscriber? How do I store a subscriber in marketing cloud within email studio? What are the, attributes, properties, like, profile preference attributes are there? Where do I store it? Can I store it in a list? Can I also store it in a data extension? If I store it in data extension, what is the difference between the two, right? So these kind of questions will come. So you need to, like, go and check, like, okay, what is the right way of doing things. Okay. Then when you come to data extensions, again, there is multiple types of data extensions that you should see. Like, you will see, like, okay, You will see standard, you will see filtered, random. There are different ways you can create it. Sometimes the type, the how you create it also is different. Like you can create it as a new data extension, you can come from an existing data extension, from a template. And if it's a template, what are the types of data extension that I can create from a template, right? Then another type of categorization that you can see is if they're like coming as a Salesforce data extension, or if it's a synchronized data extension, or if you do it as a shared extension. So there itself, you see, I've given you a bunch of different terminologies with respect to data extension. So now you see why I said this is not an easy module. You really need to know what each of these types are and what are they used for. Okay, what are the differences? The the exam, the questions, they will not probably ask you very directly like, okay, what is this, what is that? Like it doesn't happen that way. Most of it will be scenario based. So if you understand the concept of each of these, how it is being used, it's easy for you to answer those questions, because you know the foundation, the actual the concept behind it, right? And then when you create data extensions, what are the data types? Okay, lists are actually not very flexible. It can only store certain type of data, okay, subscriber data. But data extensions are more flexible, so you can actually create your own fields, and you can store data in that. So in that case, what are the data types that are available? And one things that I've usually asked my team is there's something known as primary key. Okay, people really don't understand. If you have learned SQL tables, if you have done Oracle or any of the database tables you have done, you probably understand what primary key is. But in terms of a data extension, when I ask okay, when do you use a primary key? Do you have to have a primary key? When should you not use a primary key? No idea. So people are quite confused. Okay, what is a primary key? Is that a subscriber key? Is that a contact key? So questions will really confuse you when you go in. And so if you really don't understand what is a subscriber key, what is the unique way to identify a contact or a subscriber, what is the difference between the two, and how is a primary key related to it, or is it not even related to it? So those kind of things, you need to be very sure when you start learning about data extensions. And again, the main thing of storing data in data extensions, then if you want to store contacts and non-contact data, that is possible. And then if it is contact and if you want to use it for sending emails, then we call it as a sendable D, right? So what is a sendable data extension? How do I create that? Okay, and then if I want to now send emails to a contact in a data extension, how is that possible? Because ideally, you can only send it to it has to be a subscriber, so how do I do a subscriber mapping from a data extension to the all subscribers list? So that the connection is very important for you to understand. And I'll be very frank, initially when I was also learning it the first time, I never understood that. Okay, so it is very important to understand when I store a contact inside a data extension, how is it mapped back to the all subscribers list, from which the marketing cloud will send the email out to those subscribers. So there is a behind the scenes a network that happens that you really need to understand from a fundamental perspective. Once you understand that, very easy. You understood the data model, you understand how data is stored, how the whole things happens when you send an email or when you store the data, all those things, and how you maintain it. Very simple. Then you'll be able to answer any of the questions that people ask you in terms of that, right? And then a few other terminologies that you need to understand when you learn some of these things is the publication list, suppression list, targeted exclusion list, and all. So these kind of names will come up, and there are hopefully it will be covered when you go through this module, and then go through some of the documentation on when to use, how to use this, what is it used for. Okay, so those things are very important, because they probably will give you a scenario and say okay, and give you some options in this particular list, which one would you use? Publication list, suppression list, exclusion list. Looking at all of this, and you will figure out, oh, okay, when would I use it? Then you need to start eliminating based on the question what they asked, which is not the right option. Okay. The next topic inside this one is basically segmentation. Yeah, so stay on this one. Yeah, within this one is segmentation. So segmentation, primarily what it means is, if I have a set of data, how do I actually take a subset of it? Now, why that is relevant for marketing is you may have a lot of data that you might get for marketing, for marketing communication, a lot of your customer data. You probably don't want to send marketing emails to everybody. You probably want to, maybe it's maybe you're having a special offer for certain geography. Okay, or maybe it's a particular ladies brand, or ladies sale that is going on, so your audience is actually ladies, of a particular region, if you want. So you can go and segment and say, out of all the customers that I have, select all the people who are my loyal customers or loyalty customers who we want to give a special coupon code from that region, something like that, and you want to send a personalized email to them. So in order to do that and filter and get that specific subset of data, that process is called segmentation. Okay, and there are a couple of ways that you can do segmentation within Marketing Cloud. So you need to know what is data filters. Okay, so data filters, when you go into Email Studio, that is something that you will see, and you can create it both for list and data extensions. Okay, so you need to know, if I do it for a list, what can I do with it? Okay, and if I do it for data extension, how do I apply it? Okay, those kind of things you need to know. And then list, when you do a segmentation, you can do, if you apply a data filter, it is called a filtered group. So this is very important for you to understand. List, when you filter it, it becomes a group. Data extension, when you filter it, it is still called a data extension. Okay, I don't know who brought the naming conventions. Please don't blame me for that. That is how it was handed off to us, so we learned it the same way. Okay, so uh, filtered, and then random is basically, if you actually want to take a random segmentation, automatically you ask the system to assign certain people into different groups, you can do that. So you can do the same type of segmentation, both filtered and random, for list as well as for data extension. So you need to learn, how do I apply filters for list and data extension, and how do I get some of these filtered ones. And if I don't want filters, if I just want a random segmentation, how do I do that? Okay, and the data relationships is something that you will see in Email Studio. And one of the things that you probably, if you have seen the environment, the Marketing Cloud environment, you might notice that you can see data extensions inside Email Studio, as well as in another module called Contact Builder or Audience Builder. With under Contact Builder, you will see there also you can see data extensions. Okay, so both, it is the same. Like if you create a data extension inside Email Studio, it will be visible in the Contact Builder as well. It doesn't change. It doesn't mean that the tools are different. It is just that it is viewable from two different viewpoints within Marketing Cloud. Okay, but inside Email Studio, one thing you should know is, if I want to relate to data extensions, like how you do SQL tables. If I want to relate two tables based on a key or a particular field, that is possible. If you are familiar with the term joins, how you do joins in SQL and all that, similar to that, inside here you can say, I want table A, to join to this table. For example, a customer and an order table, right? If I want to join them by customer ID, it is possible. Okay, and then that is something known as data relationship. There is a section within Email Studio. You need to understand that, how to do that. But a very important point that sometimes people don't understand is, there is another section, like I said, in Contact Builder. There's something known as attribute groups. There also you can actually link data extensions. But whatever you do inside Email Studio with data relationship is only staying within Email Studio. You cannot see that linkage inside uh, attribute groups and within Contact Builder. Okay, and whatever you do in attribute groups and inside of the Contact Builder, that is what actually is visible to all other channels, such as Journey Builder. Okay, if you go for mobile or like for web and all that, so they use all contact model. Okay, whatever you configure inside Email Studio is available only for the email channel. Okay, so within email channel, if I want to link few data extensions, I will probably do it inside the data relationships over here. But then if I want to see it on a different level, like within a journey, if I want to relate two tables and get some data based on that, if I to configure it in Email Studio and expect to see it in a journey, it will not work. Okay, so you really need to know that, those kind of gotchas that that you need to understand behind the scenes, and then learn that there are certain things that might exist in two different ways inside the platform. Okay, importing data into lists and data extensions, you should know. There are different ways that you can look at it. You can manually do it. There is wizards available where you can actually go and click and import the data from CSVs and all that. There's automated ways of doing it as well. So there is an automation studio as part of the marketing automation, which you will see, and there is an activity inside that where you can import. Programmatically, you can bring in through APIs. Also, you can bring in, and then if you have a smart capture form, which is in the cloud, in the web studio part, through a web page that is provided by Marketing Cloud, there is a form. There's a smart form where you can enter the data. That also you can capture data into data extension as well. Okay, so there are different ways that how you can bring data into lists and data extensions, you need to know which one is working with which one. So certain things work with lists and data extensions, certain things only work with data extensions, certain things may work only with lists. So you need to know which ones. And there is something known as list detective, where so if you bring data into a list, it will run behind the scenes and tell you like, okay, these are all spam emails. These kind of things are not a valid email. To do some validations of this, there are some small tools like this that you should be aware of as well. Okay. Then the other one is basically about your preference management. So there is something known as profile center and subscription center, and you need to know like, okay, how are the subscribers' preferences stored? Like, okay, what type of emails I would like to subscribe to. I'm okay, like, so for instance, if you're sending out newsletters, emails, special vouchers and things like that, uh, you can actually choose like, okay, the different types of communication that is being sent out, and you say, no, I don't want to receive this monthly newsletter and all that thing. Vouchers I would like to receive whenever you have a special voucher or a sale campaign. I would like to receive those emails. So you can actually go and specifically say only this I want, or you can say I don't want to like receive any emails from you. I am fed up and tired of all your marketing. Unsubscribe me from that, right? So all this, whenever a customer does, you need to be able to track that. So where is this information stored? What type of unsubscribes are happening, like those things also you should know, the global, universal, and this level. So you need to figure out, like so the questions might come around that area of, they will give you a scenario and say like, where should I go and manage this kind of unsubscribe. So important to understand the differences between all this first. Okay. And the 16 that I mentioned, there is probably around 16 questions you can expect from this area. So which is, that's why I said this is one of the important ones along with marketing automation that you should really understand. Okay. To the next section, Pusha. Yeah. So automation, this is actually a really fun or nice module. Like if you get hands-on on the platform as well, because it will give you access to two important tools within Marketing Cloud. One is Automation Studio and one is Journey Builder. Okay, but the problem that I see with most people is understanding when to use which one. Okay, so people understand that they are both automation platforms, and but what do they really do and what is the insight? Unless and until you have done hands-on, it might be very difficult. So if you do not have an access to the org and you're studying for the exam, by looking at the bootcamp, sometimes like you may not really think, and you might confuse it because they'll sound kind of similar. Okay, but very simply put, let me put it this way: like Automation Studio, it is, if you want to automate something in the background, like you have a set of steps, like that it will actually process some data or do or run some jobs for you, things like that. So that is what automation is used for. Automation Studio is used for. Journey Builder, on the other hand, is primarily like it's a one-to-one engagement, contact engagement tool. Okay, so inside that, it's basically, you will be able to send one or more contacts into that in a journey path. Okay, so what it means is like let's say you are part of a welcome journey, like maybe you enrolled into a new course or in a university, right? So or in a new course, so initially they will send you the welcome kit in the first email or maybe welcome email. Okay, then after 2 days they might send you a welcome kit, like to say, okay, these are the things that you can use as part of it and things like that. uh, Maybe 1 week later they might send you a survey of like how things are, like okay, then, or maybe they may say, okay, we have assigned you a buddy, things like that. So as you can see, there is a specific path in which you will be able to go through if you are part of like into a process, right? And sometimes based on how you engage, you might go a different path. Let's say they are expecting to send you something and you are sent something and they're expecting you to like open that email, but you did not even open the email, you were bothered, you forgot about it, right? So if you did not open the email, they might send you a reminder, right? But if you open the email, they might do the next step, like but they might send you like okay, now that you opened the email, okay, here's the next thing that you need to do. Okay, so it can go to in two different paths depending on how you engage. So that is what Journey Builder is used for. Okay, so you really need to understand like the difference between the two, because questions are more scenario based. They will tell, okay, customer wants to do this, blah blah blah, and all that, or the organization wants to do like this. Which tool would you use? Okay, or which aspect of the tool would you use? So you really need to understand the foundations of that. Okay, and then once you get into each of the tools, you can see how they function. Okay, what is an automation workflow? What are the different parts of a workflow? You need to know the entry sources, like there are file drop, schedule, triggered. Okay, which one is used when? There are activities that you would configure, like file-based activities are like file transfer, import, data extract, and you can send emails and other like SMS and all you can send. Segmentation, like I said earlier, right? Segmentation, if you want to automate, you can do both filter and query activities. Okay, so one thing you should understand is query activities is writing SQL. That is only possible for data extensions and not for list. Okay. So sometimes the question might come like, okay, we want to write a complex, segmentation, like, so that will require a SQL thing. Which data structure will you use? So they will give you option for list, data extension, and all that. So for query activity, if you are using, and if you try to say list, it is not correct because you cannot use list with a query activity. So those kind of things you should understand, right? And then sequencing of the activities inside automation is very important. So we used to, a long time back, we used to get questions, I don't know if it is still there. So they will give you a sequence, like the steps are arranged in sequence. Like for instance, you will probably have a file transfer followed by an import activity. Then there might be a segmentation, like either a SQL query activity and then a send email. So it's one after the other, right? So if you, and that is only for certain scenario, like if it's an encrypted file, you need to use a file transfer, and then if you want to pull the data from that decrypted file into your data extension, you should use import activity. You really need to know like what is each activity used for and when do I need to use it. And they will give you options one after the other, and then they'll put it in the wrong order. So you need to sort the correct, select the correct answer based on the correct order. It should be file transfer, import activity, send email, or segment and send email. So something like that. Okay. So there might be questions on something similar to that. So you probably need to understand that too. And not just in the sequence order. Sometimes you can even have activities in parallel also. So when would you put activities in parallel? When would you put it in series? You should know. And if your automation fails, how do you know? Okay, what are some of the ways that you can monitor your automation, and how do you debug? There's something called as run once, which you can actually test only certain parts of the automation. So you should know all of this. Journey builder, on the other hand, there is also entry sources, but again, there's more larger. How, what are the various ways you can actually push or bring a contact into a journey, in terms of from a data extension, if you want to have it from Salesforce, if you have it from a cloud page, through APIs or different channels, all this is possible. One important thing that you have to learn in journey when you cover journey builder is there's a concept of contact data versus journey data. Okay, I'll not go through that inside here, but please note that if you do not understand how that contact versus journey data is, it is difficult for you to really understand, because sometimes one is a snapshot and the other one is a dynamic, latest data. So you really need to know when to use which one. Okay. And then few extra things that you need to understand across this marketing automation is, if the marketing cloud instance is now integrated with maybe sales cloud or service cloud with CRM through marketing cloud connect, how would you now bring the data from them into marketing cloud for automation, right? So can I use a synchronized DE and bring it into an automation studio, and then do segmentation and use it for marketing, or can I bring it directly into a journey through the SF data entry source? Okay. And then the other way around also, from a journey, if I want to send data into any of the sales cloud or service cloud part, I can create an object or update an object inside Salesforce. That is possible through some of the CRM activities that you see in a journey. Okay, and you can also these two tools like automation and journey, they can also work in conjunction. For example, if I do some getting some data from a file, I can extract that data, bring it into an into the through the automation. I can bring it into a data extension. I can do some segmentation, and then after I've created the new segmented data extension, I can hand it off to a journey. Okay, I don't have to keep it within automation studio and then be done with it. So that handoff is also possible. So integrating between an automation studio activity to a journey is also possible. So that also you need to understand. Okay, so I hope the marketing automation part is also quite important. Like I said, 16 questions, so you really need to deep dive into these two. Now these two modules, if you really cover properly, you should have almost 50% of the exam, you should be very good at. And then the rest of the other modules, as long as you can answer very on a high level, you should get at least 60-70%, you should be able to easily score. That's what I would recommend. Okay, the next slide. We should, yeah. So This module, primarily you need to know how to use email studio features effectively for creating and sending emails. Okay, not just creation but even to send emails, you need to know. So in terms of content creation, you need to know how to, like, create templates and emails. Okay, there's something known as templates. So you need to know, okay, how do I create, what type of templates I can create, what, and when I create an email from a template, how do I create, or directly should I create an email, how do I bring, branding assets into, templates and all that. Okay, and then if you update a template, would an existing email that you built from the template get updated? This was one of the questions that I've seen most of the time they ask, like, no, but I don't know if it's still there. I'm just telling you. So you can understand what, how they actually ask. Unless and until you really know the concept and you've worked on it, you probably might not be able to answer, like, no. So you should be very careful in some of these topics. How do you personalize emails? Okay, there are different ways you can actually send personalized emails. Okay, there's something known as personalization strings, which is different from AMP-script. Okay, so the programmatic things are like, AMP-script, SSJS, GTL. You do not need to know the actual syntax of AMP-script, SSJS, or GTL. Right? Just know that there are three ways you can actually use programming through, either through AMP-script or SSJS or GTL. Okay? You don't need to know, like, exactly what are the syntax and all that. Like, they will not ask all that, but know that there is something known as personalization string. There is programming languages, and then there is something known as dynamic content, where you can actually dynamically show a content within an email based on some attribute or some data that you're passing into the email. Okay, and then in terms of sending, when once you have created an email and you've designed it, like, how do I now send it out, and what are the different types of send definitions. Okay, so there's user initiated, there is triggered. When would you use these two? Okay, so that is very important, like, so then they might give you a scenario and say, like, okay, which type of send definition might you use, like, or which type of send you might use, which would you prefer, like, so there might be the I don't know how they will provide the options, but if you know that behind the scenes, okay, there is two types that we would use, which one would you kind of, like, go with, like, so that you should be really, user initiated is quite different from triggered. So you really need to know, like, how these two are configured, what will actually initiate one of these. Okay, who can initiate it? Does it come from within marketing cloud? Does it come from an external system? Those things you should know. Okay, then there's email send flow. So basically, when you want to send an email out, like, you have to go through a set of steps. Okay, so if you're seen email studio, like, and then if you try to do a send, you will see, like, okay, it'll guide you through steps 1, 2, 3, 4. So you need to know each of those steps, what they do. Okay, and then finally you can preview, and then you can test your emails, and then you can send it out. Like, you can schedule to send it out, or you can immediately send it out. So you need to know each of those steps and how it is being going through that. That's called send flow. Okay, then finally, on content management, you have the content builder. So that's a separate section, but inside in email studio also you can see the same content builder. So you within, so one thing that you will notice is, if you open an email within email studio's content builder, you have the option to send the email from there. The same email, if you open outside in marketing cloud under content builder, you will not see the send option. Okay, but you can create the email, you can preview and test and everything, and you can create approvals, all those things you can keep. Okay, so there are subtle things, like I said, like, you might see the same thing replicated outside in different parts of marketing cloud. So be careful of, so those kind of things. And then you really need to know what is content blocks. So these are basic small blocks that different. There are different types, like HTML, there's clear text, images, and all those are different blocks of functionality that you can bring into an email template or an email into the layout, and then you can add content into that. Okay, you can have code snippets, like, and that can be used for something else. So there are different content blocks that you can create. You need to know what are the common ones and how do I now use that in an email. Okay, and during design I can pull that in. And then sometimes you can create and keep content blocks. You can share content blocks across the use. Okay, so sometimes the marketing team will actually create and keep it, so that you don't have to, like, go and create it on the fly. It's already approved. You just pull it into your email, and then you can just, there might be some personalization string that you have to update. That's all. Very easy to share and reuse the same content block for, multiple campaigns. That is why it is very useful. And then there is also the possibility that you can call content blocks into an email programmatically as well. You probably don't need to know, but there is an option to do that. Okay. Okay, so that is most on the content creation and delivery. I'm sure, like, you have two days deep dive into this, so you will see some of that in action. Hopefully, yeah. 14 questions on that one. Yeah. The next one, Piyusha, is on insights and analytics. So this used to be a relatively smaller module back in the days, like few years ago, but now it has been little more features have been added into this topic, and it has been expanded. So around 8 questions you can expect from this. So there are different places within Marketing Cloud where you will probably see analytics data. Okay, so within Email Studio, you should know where you can find tracking data. There is a tab itself called tracking, so you can see tracking data there. There is delivery metrics like opens, what is open, what is click through rate, what is the bounce, what is conversion. All these terms you should know. Okay, so you need to go through that and then be very familiar with this kind, because questions might be having specifics on, like, okay, there is an open, there's click, and there's click through rate, which is the one that you would want to track. All those things they will ask. Okay, and then there is something known as data views. Okay, it's actually like, tables that where you can, the automatic system tables where data is stored behind the scenes as a data extension, where they will track the tracking data, like some of these opens, clicks, and all that, journey data, the SMS data, mobile email data, all those, like, whatever you have sent out, tracking data related to that will be actually stored in data views. Okay, and there is, I think it is about 6 months of data you should be able to get from there. So question is, how do I now extract the data from these data views? Okay, so you can either use SQL, or you can use a data extract activity. There are multiple ways that you should be able to get the data, and when would you use that, right? There's something known as link tracking. Okay, if I have links, how do I know that somebody has clicked on a link, or how do you track that? And there is something known as parameter management. The older documentation, you might come across a term called WAC, which is Web Analytics Connector. So that is now under the parameter management. So you should know, how do I add parameters, or what are the default parameters that they give if I want to append that to a URL. If I have a link, that automatically gets, if you enable parameter, they get added. And how do I pass, parameters, like, for some of those values into some of those parameters that are available, like, for your links. So, and especially if you are going to integrate into Google Analytics at some point in time, how do I now, track all that? So you can, there is some documentation around that. You can Google it. You should be able to see that as part of the documentation, how it's enabled. Yeah. There is an analytics builder, module within Marketing Cloud, and that has the reports catalog. So it has a bunch of reports. There's quite a lot, but you just need to know some of the common ones, like for email campaigns, like, what are the most common reports that you might look at. Okay, the important part is, how do you now go pull these reports, and you do manually, or do you automate it? If I do, can I schedule it? Will it be sent as an email? Will I be sent to an FTP? Or how do I get those, like, reports, like, so from an automated standpoint, like, how do I generate that? Those kind of things you should know as well. And then recently, the intelligence reports and dashboard was introduced, so that is also that a different section within that module. You'll see it's a different interface. It actually looks more like our CRM analytics or like Tableau and all. You will see a much more intuitive dashboard kind of interface. There also, if you go into it, you will see only certain types of reports. Like, okay, you can see data related to emails and journeys. So those things you should be looking at. What are the type of data that I can see? Because questions might come like, they are looking at this. Where can I find this data? Or I'm looking at the dashboard, like, and they might ask you, which report would I actually check for to see this data? So you should know what are the different report types that I can see. What is the data that they are showing there in that specific analytics section. Okay. And then inside Journey Builder also, there is a section where you can see some of the journey analytics. So you should check, like, under Journey Builder, what are the things that I can see, like in terms of the journey health, like, how many contacts have entered, any contact information, those kind of things. Also, you might have some information inside journeys as well. Okay. And finally, the last part of this one is Einstein. So this is some of the newly added ones. The intelligence one and the Einstein are the newly added areas. Like, so there is a whole set of Einstein features that have been added in Marketing Cloud over the years. It used to be just email and web recommendations long back. Okay, so like, if you want to send recommendations through email or through web, you could use those features. But now they've added few more, like, engagement scoring, engagement frequency, send time optimization, content selection, etc. Okay, so there is a bunch of different features. There is documentation around that, and I'm sure that will be covered in one of the bootcamp sessions later. But please go through that and what each of those mean. Okay, I don't think it will be very in-depth kind of questions, like, how do you apply this kind of things. But if you know what each of these are and how it's being used, what is it used for, you should be able to answer most of the basic questions on the Einstein features as well. Okay. Okay, we can go to the last module, which is I think on email marketing best practices. Okay, this is, even though it's the last, it is not the it's not important. It's really important as well. This is the one that actually will. It's not easy to, like, how do I say, find a lot of content on this if you, unless you do a good amount of reading. Okay, because best practices, it comes with experience. Like, people tell you, like, they hand over like things on you, like, okay, these are some of the mistakes that we have made, you shouldn't make such mistakes, right? So you really need to, like, research a bit, like, understand some of the things. Okay, what is good and what is not a good practice. Okay. So some of the basic things you need to know is, from a compliance perspective, there's something known as scan spam. Okay, and because that is one of the marketing laws in the US, and because marketing cloud is based out of the US, okay, so you have to follow that. Along with that, if you are actually using marketing cloud in a different country, you need to understand the laws of that country. For instance, if you are in Europe, you might have to know GDPR. Okay, so every country has a different, may have a different law in terms of, like, privacy and the marketing laws and things like that. So you should understand the compliance laws, like those. So you need to know, at least from a can spam perspective, you really need to know what is can spam and what does can spam ask you to do. Okay, there is a set of things that they will say, like, okay, when you're doing marketing communications, you should abide by this 5 6 rules. If you don't, you are in violation. Okay, and later on, if they hold you, then automatically they might tag you as a spam and all things like that. Then it's very difficult to then be a reputed center anymore. Okay, and you need to know, like, how does it affect your email marketing. And there is something known as email deliverability. So it's like, okay, how good would you be rated when you, if you are able to send emails out? Is it reaching your inbox, your customer's inbox, properly without being blocked or marked as a spam? So that email deliverability is very important. There are multiple factors that influence email deliverability, so you need to go through that as well. Okay, so this module is going to be a little theoretical, where you need to, like, research some of those things. And then in terms of, like, certain things that you configure, there is something known as send classification, where you need to understand there are two types of emails that you can send. One is a commercial versus a transactional. Okay, commercial means primarily from a marketing perspective you send an email. Okay, so most of the time you will see, you go to your Gmail, you will see a lot of emails that come as marketing. You go to your spam folder, you will see they are also marketing, but because, why they are marked as a spam? Because they are not aligning to some of these rules that have been set. Okay, so you can see, if you try to send a mail with a header, you might look at some emails and say, hey, why did this become a spam? So sometimes you might have, faced that scenario where, like, automatically Gmail moved an email that you felt was not a spam as into a spam, because there might be some content in there, or maybe the subject line was feeling very fishy, that it automatically makes it, thinks it is a spam and moves it over there, right? So that is why, even when we send our emails, we think, yeah, it is great, no problem, we can send it out. Every aspect of your email, you need to be very careful. Okay, so there is tools within marketing cloud which can actually review your email and tell you if there is any keyword or anything that you put in there which might make email ISPs to think it is a spam. So there are, but it's not foolproof, but at least it will give you some indication, so you need to be very careful, when you send things out, so that it doesn't be tagged as a spam, because otherwise you're trying to send everything out, there's no point, right? It doesn't reach your subscriber. So understanding commercial and transactional very important. Transactional is basically when you get, like, for instance, you placed an order, so you get order confirmation. Okay, you asked for a password reset, you get a password reset email. So there are, all these are transaction emails. They are not meant for marketing purposes to you. Anything that is being sent to you from a commercial standpoint, or asking you to buy something or invest in something, that is a commercial type of email. So two types. When do you use which one, you need to know. There is some configurations that you should know from a marketing cloud standpoint, something known as sender authentication package. When do I do domain authentication, like the SPF DKM? There's certain policies, so there's documentation on that. Please read that. A very important concept that you should know is IP warming. What is IP warming? When do you use it, and why is it important? Okay, so when you start your marketing cloud journey, or not just for marketing cloud, but that's more of a marketing best practice, irrespective of which tool you use. Like, you don't start sending 1 million emails in the first day. Okay, the moment if you do that, automatically everybody will come and say you're a spam bot, so they will block you. So there is a slow, steady process on how you do IP warming. There's good documentations in there. Please read that. And then in terms of email design and best practices, I'm sure Piyusha might go through some of those tomorrow as well. There are some great articles that you need to follow. I can share those links shortly. But then, like in term, very simple one I can put as like, if you're building email templates, it should be responsive emails, right? So responsive means it should be automatically changing according to the size of the your multi devices, like from your tablet to your laptop to your mobile, the email should respond. Otherwise, like if it looks very odd when you move it to a mobile, people will not like your emails anymore. So you should use a responsive email template. The size of your emails that you send out should be like appropriate. If it's very large size, it will take a long time to download. Okay, some of us have fast internet, doesn't mean everybody has, and it will eat up their data plan, so people don't like it. Then how do you retain your existing subscribers, by sending only relevant and personalized content? If you keep getting emails from people that is not relevant to you, you are the first person who's going to unsubscribe, right? So you cannot blame your customers also. So it's very important that how do I ensure that I send and not have my people unsubscribe or my customers unsubscribe for my marketing. How do I now increase my subscriber base? Like how do I get more people? So there are bad ways of getting people, where people will sell you list, they'll say, okay, hey, here's 1,000 people who you can use, you can hear their email IDs, you pay me $100, I'll give you the list. Very bad. Those are things you should not do, because you haven't asked people for permission. This is as good as giving your address to somebody and saying like, oh, yeah, you can go and contact this person, no problem. So there is something known as consent, which is very important. So you need to understand what is this concept of consent, and if you violate that, your subscriber privileges and preferences is very bad. You will automatically get unsubscribed, your reputation will go down. So always say capture the consent of every person, and the consent is very simple. I think most of you have seen it. Whenever you sign up for any website or any product or things like that, at the bottom, even for Salesforce also, when you're registering for a Zoom webinar itself, at the bottom you might see a checkbox, after you give all your information, I agree to give my information to other marketing partners to contact me, blah blah blah. So that is basically they're asking you for consent. If you don't check that, they will not send you the email, right? So that is a very simple way of putting consent part to you to explain that. Okay? So like this, there are things that you would have to capture, and then these all come under email marketing best practices. Okay, I know that was quite a lot. We almost went a little ahead of the time, but I hope this was useful. I will share the links that I mentioned about the practices part shortly in chat, but then we can open it out for questions if there is nothing else. And I think the next slide, Pisha, is mostly on the references that people can go through. So if you have something to talk about this, you can go ahead.
Um, yes. Sorry. Thank you so much, Shivu, for sharing all the details about how, like, what topics are covered for each and every topic. Yes, for each and every area of the exam. And I hope, like, now everyone has a better idea about what they can expect from the exam. So on your screen now, you can see that these are some of the recommendations. Exam guide, you should go through it, and then the trail mix, the practice test, Salesforce help articles, join the LinkedIn group, and then um, there's also a Trailhead Academy course which is recommended by Salesforce. Um, you don't necessarily have to appear for it if you don't want to. So that's just a recommendation, actually. But what's something which I would recommend is start working on the trail mix today onwards, because it will be a bit time consuming. So if you'll start from today, you'll be able to just get through the bite-sized modules by the end of the boot camp, and so you'll have a much better idea of what you're studying on every week. Also, at the bottom of every module or unit, there are some resources mentioned. Make sure you go through all of those resources, not just the content mentioned on top of the trailhead. I will also share my screen to give you an example of how you can do it, and also where these slides will be. So these slides will be posted through a link on YouTube, as well as you will be able to find these slides. Let me, sorry, just share my window. Okay, sorry. Okay, so when you go to the Salesforce Marketeers group, At the bottom in the past events, you can just go to view details. You will be redirected to this page. And here, for every page, I will link up the slide decks and assignment here. So you can actually click here and you'll be able to access the PDF from here. And then the one I was talking about, if you go to any module on Trailhead, um, you will see some resources at the bottom. These are very important resources. So make sure you read each and every one of them instead of just skipping through this content, because this content is really important and you'll be able to relate to so many things when you are actually, oh God, sorry. I was actually sharing my screen and for some reason, um, I don't know what you guys were able to see. Uh, but yeah, that's all. So the resources are really important. Please go through them. Do not skip the resources. And the rest of the content you will be able to see on your screen. Now, maybe we can take up some Q&As. Shibu,
Yeah,
you can
but
see.
let me give one recommendation here. I know we are over time, but please ask questions related to the exam. I know people love to ask questions like related to your work. In the interest of the rest of the team, please refrain from that. Reach out to us separately, like in social. We will be happy to take a look at it. So I saw few questions here, so I will refrain from answering that right now, like because those are specific to your project scenarios and things like that. Please don't ask that in this scenario here. Let's focus on anything questions that you may have on the exam part of things. Yeah, whatever we covered today.
Yeah, so there are a few questions on the Q&A block. So maybe we can start with the one Sana have asked, and I guess a lot of people have this question. If I've never used Salesforce and don't have an access, is it possible to get ready to the exam? What is the main resources for prep? So first thing is, Sana, which I want to mention, and rest Shivu can explain, is I am actually working and like trying to work out a partnership of sorts with a Salesforce partner to actually get access to everyone for Marketing Cloud, and hopefully, like they'll give me a clear picture of what's going to happen by Monday. So until then, you don't need an access. So for next sessions, I am trying to arrange a org for everyone so that you can get hands-on practice. So I'm still trying to work on it. No promises here. But even if you don't have access to it, I guess a lot of demos and uh, some content will be shared with you, which you'll be able to then relate to the content you're reading on Trailhead. So in most of the cases, you should be able to pass the exam by the end of the bootcamp sessions, because all the relevant information will be shared here. You can start with Trailhead, and maybe she can explain the rest.
Sure. Yeah. Trailhead alone will not help. Like if you have hands-on access, it is the best, but not mandatory. Like a lot of content is available online right now, and then reading the documentation is important. The help documentation, because some questions may come from there, and definitely the bootcamp will help. Like see bootcamp videos like this, like will give you an idea of like what the scenario is explained to you, and then you can ask questions, clarify your doubts if when you're studying that. Like it is. That's why I think there is a Q&A, specific Q&A towards the end of the bootcamp as well, because you may not be able to ask the questions in the initial when the session is happening. If you note something later on when you're studying it, keep a note of that. You say that you are not able to find that, you can post it in the LinkedIn group or with the Slack group wherever we are having the speakers help monitoring it. So they will be able to help answer some of those questions that you may have with those scenarios. One of the reasons why Marketing Cloud doesn't have a free developer org like the other one is, there may be issues like if it is shared. And that's my perception. Is like, because I've had this problem initially when it was given to our team members, and who they know have no idea how to use marketing properly. You might end up sending marketing communications to live people, and you might get tagged for it. Okay, so it becomes a big problem for your company. So which is one of the reasons why they don't allow every person to simply go and get a developer org, to send out communications, things like that. So it is a specific domain. You have to register, you have to authenticate and things like that. So That's very, very important. So for the other things, you can actually use your own personal emails to send out emails. That's a different part of it. But when you use a proper marketing tool for a mass kind of thing, it is very difficult to control that. That's one of the primary reasons that you don't get a developer org. So even if you get the access that Piyusha is saying, please be very careful. Like you might not know it unknowingly, you might do it, then they will end up in trouble. So if you are doing something, make sure you don't send out any actual communications. You can go through the tool, you can click on things, you can find out, okay, how do I configure, ask the things, ask the questions. Feel free to go through the automation part and all that. It will really help you how to create and things like that. If you get access, no problem on that. Just giving you an what we experienced, from my team has gone through, even I have gone through that. So want to make sure you guys don't make the same mistake when you go through the actual hands-on as well. Yeah? But uh, to summarize, like I said, not mandatory nowadays. That you, if you have, great, but you don't say that, okay, just because I don't have hands-on, I am not able to I don't feel confident to write. uh, I would say the marketing associate. If you have tried that, you will get an idea how confident are you in marketing concepts, and then go through the videos, go through the documentation, go through understand the scenarios. Ask yourself the question: if I were doing this in a particular scenario, how would I solve this? Okay, that will really help you. If you were preparing, let's say you were setting the questions to ask somebody, how would I now apply this in a scenario, and how what kind of questions should I ask somebody? That's the best way that you can learn. Okay, let me apply this here, because you are one of the customers, right? You're a customer who receives the emails from multiple marketing companies, so it's easy for you to figure out. If you were using marketing cloud to send out an email campaign like this, hmm, what would I use? What kind of email should I use? If the data is coming from there, okay, how does that work behind the scenes? So you be curious, figure that out, and start learning based on that. And one thing I want to highly um tell here as well. I know there are questions or dumps and things out all there. It's a shortcut way, that people sometimes resort to, but it will only come to harm you. Okay, because I've seen and I've spoken to a lot of people who claim they have the email specialist certification. The moment I interview them and I ask very basic questions, they are unable to answer because they simply resorted to that. So initially might be thinking it's a very nice thing to do, let's go ahead and get the certification, I got certified, but that will not help you in the long run because you really did not understand the concept. Even if you fail the first time, that's okay. Okay, we have all gone through it. Fail, because that will actually help you understand where did I go wrong, where was I weak at. Okay, so let me go and learn it properly the next time. So that will actually, you will feel more proud that, okay, I did it properly and I came out winning. Okay, and then when somebody asks you a question later on, when you go for your job or the interviews, you're truthful, you'll be able to say yeah, that's fine, I failed it a couple of times, now I answered, now I know where my problem is and I know the concepts properly. The interviewer will really appreciate you from that perspective, so they will immediately know. I can immediately know from when I ask two questions or three questions, if somebody has taken the exam through dumps or if they actually did it properly by studying. So people are out there are experts, they will really know very fast. So please don't resort to that. At least from an industry standpoint, if you're all trying to get into marketing at some point in time, please be truthful and honest. Okay? Just my 2 cents. Thanks.
Yeah, totally agree with what you've shared, Shibu. Because I myself failed the email marketing specialist exam the first time around. So I know it's heartbreaking. Oh my God, I failed my exam. But when you'll pass it on your own merits, you'll actually feel so much confident and positive about your skill set because you'll be able to use those in your day to day work life. So don't try to look for shortcuts. Again, read the content, watch every video, try to learn as much as possible before you write the exam. So that's always best. And even if I'm not able to arrange the hands-on org for everyone, Salesforce actually has some exercises for people who are not able to get hands-on experience. So I will be sharing 3 relevant exercises for every one of you during different days. So stay tuned and sign up for all the sessions. For all of these 3 exercises, you will be able to get some kind of hands-on experience, if not the full experience. So yeah, I actually have tried to curate content from so many different places, and I'm trying to make this work for a lot of people, because majority of the people have complaints about they don't have access to marketing cloud org, and that's why these boot camps are really helpful. So I hope your question have been answered, Sana. We have next question from Ajinkya. Hi, any prerequisite knowledge required to kick off the journey in SFMC, like SQL, HTML, and CSS, and any other coding skills? So I don't think you need specific
Yeah, yeah.
coding skills to begin with, especially for email specialist, but she can probably explain a bit better.
Yeah, they only ask, the questions will be more conceptual here. So you just need to know when to use which one. So for instance, you need to know if you need to use a query activity, or would it be a filter activity, or if it's going to be a programming thing, like, you might have to use AMP script for this. That's it. They will not ask you specific, like, okay, what AMP script syntax and things like that comes in developer. So just know that, okay, there is a concept like this, that it is possible through that specific feature. That's all. That is the level that they might ask you max.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, some questions are very relevant to what the work people are doing. Okay, do we require sales and service knowledge to start with marketing? Do we need to know these for integration part for certification? So, essentially, sales and marketing, sales and service are built on Salesforce platform, but marketing is built on a different platform. Hence, the difference in the user interface as well. So you don't need to have sales or service knowledge to work on marketing cloud certifications, but having cross cloud knowledge would be helpful when you work on, you know, the integration part of sales and service and marketing. And she will be able to explain you in a better and detailed way.
Yeah, kind of like covered it here. So yeah, you don't need prerequisite to have sales or service. Like, it's a different platform, like Pisha said. Just go through. See, Marketing Cloud can even operate as a standalone. It doesn't have to be integrated with sales or service. If you have it integrated, then you get additional features, like I said, like through Marketing Cloud Connect. So you need to understand what is that Marketing Cloud Connect. Okay, how does it connect to Sales and Service Cloud if it is there, and because of that, what is the advantages that you get in marketing automation? So that part you should probably understand. Okay, and then if it is by standalone, if I have data, and if I'm getting data from multiple systems, through maybe through files, if through APIs, what is possible. The possibilities is what you need to figure out, how does Marketing Cloud as a system, maybe you, for sending out emails, how can I get data from multiple sources, what are the types of automations that I can do in those cases, so those you should understand.
Okay, so I guess majority of the questions related to the exams have been covered. We just have one more repeated question. Are there questions on HTML and other coding languages? Um, there are no questions related to coding languages, like coding related questions in the exam, um, because even I appeared for the exam in 2022, so it's been close to a year and a half. And at that time, there were no questions related to coding, and I'm assuming that there are none till today itself. So you'll be good. For the YouTube channel link, I will share it in the LinkedIn group and on the LinkedIn page. I'm really sorry, it's a very new YouTube channel. I only have created because so many people requested to have the sessions recorded. So I will be sharing the YouTube channel link as well as the link for today's session, and all the assignments and everything pretty soon. So please allow me some time. And if you have any more questions, you can either send me a message and I'll try to incorporate those questions in the upcoming sessions, or you can reach out to Shibu if you have any additional questions. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Shibu, for taking out time on a weekend. Thank you so
Happy,
much, everyone.
happy to help. Thank you everyone for joining in.